so I'm here with our April Artist of the Month, Jeff Rogalski here, who is sharing all of this incredible work with us that you see around me. So Jeff, could you just give me kind of a real quick overview of what it is we're looking at here?
Well, I do cutting boards, wall art, framed and unframed wall art, and cheese boards, food presentation boards or food serving boards. This exhibit is mostly my cheese boards and food presentation stuff, the smaller pieces, the under $200 stuff. I salt and peppered a couple of several butterflies and a couple of wall art pieces as fillers, but mostly this features my smaller pieces.
So it's called end grain. Tell me about that.
End grain, yes. So if you take a tree and like a young tree, let's say for the sake of discussion, and you cut the trunk and you look at the flat surface of that, you'll see growth rings. That's the end grain.
Okay.
Now in a board, trees are milled, right, into boards. And so you'll see aspects of those end grains in slices, depending on how thick the board is.
Right.
So I discovered in doing cutting boards, like 10 years ago, 11 years ago, that every wood species has their own unique feature. It's like a fingerprint. And it's unique to that wood species, especially the exotic hardwoods. So I fell in love with the exotic hardwoods. Woods like babinga and nogal and African mahogany and purple heart and yellow heart and sapele and those kinds of things that I'd never heard of before. And the colors, these are natural colors. There's no dyes or stains used. And so I saw an opportunity to introduce the world to such beauty in the end grain, the patterns, the unique patterns of each wood species. And then by combining these end grain patterns with different wood species, it creates I kind of created a new art form. And it's remarkable to me and to people who've seen the work, a lot of people, that what it can look like in contrast, the uniqueness and the detail that's involved in the beautiful end grain of each wood species. So I kind of use that as my palette, like an artist paints with oils or acrylics, I paint with wood.
Yeah. I love that. So what is it that gets you inspired and like ready to engage in this kind of creative work?
Well, I'm a design still graduate, so my undergrad is in design. So I did a 30-some year career in design and marketing communication. So I'm used to creating things, but I'm used to creating things for clients to solve problems, communications problems, or marketing problems, or promotional problems. So I'm not doing that work anymore. So I need some creative outlet. Some people, some people collect stamps, I guess, or insects. I've always had a shop in my garage, and I decided to start exploring, making cutting boards. That's how I started. And I watched online videos, and my inspiration was really this man from Russia, a carpenter from Russia, who had a 1,200 square foot shop, which to me is like a dream. I've got a 2-car garage, and this guy's got a 1,200 foot shop, and that's mostly what he does is cutting boards. So I learned technique. I learned how to do glue ups. I learned how to do clamping, how to clamp up a panel of wood. I learned how to cut strips and turn them 90 degrees to expose the end grain and to combine different wood species and glue ups, etc. So I learned a lot of technique from him for a year or a year and a half or so. And so I used the technique as fundamentals for me to use those techniques as part of my toolbox to create art.
Yeah. So, here at CSLDallas, I mean, we are a spiritual community here. And so, and I know from my end, something I'm always fascinated with is sort of the intersection of creativity and spirituality, right? Like finding that middle point. And so and I know that you're involved in the community here. So I guess I'm curious, how does your spirituality interact with your creativity?
Well, it just so happens I wrote a quote. I wrote that, I did a show last year at the Eisman Center. I had 56 pieces exhibited there last July. And for that show, part of the display in that exhibit, and about the artist, I did a little brief bio, and I ended with this quote: creating art is an intimate spiritual experience, allowing the infinite creativity of the divine in each of us to ignite our irresistible impulse to create something beautiful. And then,
and each of these magnificent works of art becomes deliciously authentic manifestations of our deepest selves. Wow.
And I believe that, because especially the butterflies, I got inspired. I was so excited to do Eisman last year. Like, I wanted to do some new pieces and challenge myself. So I started doing butterflies, and I must have done 150 layouts of different shapes of butterflies, different sizes, etc. And my heart and soul really went into exhibiting 9 new butterflies, and I did a total of 13 new pieces for that show. And I found that I discovered that, these butterflies is really part of my story, really. It's part of my own personal transformation. And it is a deeply intimate spiritual experience for me. And what I'm doing here is really an authentic manifestation of my deepest self. And I look at this work, and if anything is me, if my guts or my physical, spiritual definition of a person, unique expression of spirit as Jeff, I think a big part of that is pretty vulnerable in the butterflies I did. I think the butterflies are amazing, and to see my innards being expressed creatively with end grain wood and the exotics and the shapes, I was just delighted. It was just, and I can't wait to do more. That's kind of like what I'm going to be doing. I guess I told one person last year, I said, I may do nothing but butterflies for the rest of my life, and explore that, bigger ones, smaller ones, families of butterflies, maybe different sizes in the same family. I mean, who knows where that can go creatively, so.
Absolutely.
And people relate to butterflies. I've heard people say, my mother had butterflies. She collected butterfly everything, statues, artwork, knickknacks. Butterflies were her thing, and people relate to that as a life and death kind of a thing, almost like a guardian angel. As a matter of fact, one of my butterflies I named Mama's guardian angel.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, Jeff, how can people stay connected to your work? Obviously, they should come to the gallery.
I'll be
in
here
Banking
all
Hall.
month. Yes.
They should absolutely come to that. But how else can we stay connected with the things you're doing?
I have a website called endgrainart.com. I'm on Instagram at endgrainart. And I have a Facebook page. That's my personal Facebook page, but 90% of it is,
Those two.
95% of it is showing my artwork and
Oh, yeah.
things like that. That's Jeff Rogalski, because Facebook, Jeff Rogalski .3 or Jeff Rogalski .7, because somehow I've got two Facebook pages, and there's a Jeff Rogalski on Facebook.
Absolutely.
I never understood how that could happen.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just beautiful work. And so,
Thank you.
of course.
Appreciate it.